I ended up doing 2 more texture bases. Here's one that used a yellowish tone watercolor mixed with the pearl purple. And this one I think was the same combination, but I also tossed in some Winsor Newton Indian ink for some really dark splotchy stuff. Now, what I really like about the metallics is that it's not overpowering the way I've mixed it in with the watercolor, and it just adds a subtle sheen to the surface that it doesn't look really metallic or glittery because of the way I've diluted it so much, except for in the really intense concentrated points of it. And so I think it'll reproduce well in scans and things as well. I think I'm going to start with this one for painting. I don't really know yet what I see in these other two. I definitely see some forms, and I'd love to work on them, but I also just like looking at them the way they are. This is so pretty with the blue and the gold splotches on it and these little dark textural elements. So I kind of don't want to mess that one up yet. I'm going to use this one. I'm going to get my watercolors. And I should probably clean out this little palette first because I've got a lot of the gouache still in there. So let me go do that and I will be right back. I think what I would like to do today is one of my ghostly foxes. I've had people asking about how I do fur. So we can do a little bit of that here too. I need to dry out this palette a little bit more. There's still too much water in it because I just washed it out. Okay, dry it off now. And I am going to start with pulling out the shape of my fox here that I see. And I'm mixing a little bit of blue. There's a tiny bit of that little gold gouache left in the corner here, so I might as well integrate that. And the resulting tone I have is sort of a shimmering greenish. And I'm starting off with just sketching the shape that I see here. Pretty lightly. Now I really like the texture stuff going on here, so I'm going to try to retain that. I'm not going to improve on what is already pretty cool looking. A little bit of wash over here. This is going to be a fox spirit, so she's going to have several tails. Mixing in a little bit of quinacridone gold. Let's see, so one tail is going to be with this crazy textury stuff going on. Another one is going to be over here. Another one curling up gotta do a little bit of definition on this part. But like I said, I'm going to try to leave some of that textury goodness going on its own. Okay, so this is enough of a hint right now to myself for what I've got going on. It's done in pretty light wash. I do want to add some white because I fixed everything on here. I'm not going to be able to lift out the base colors anyway. If I was doing this differently, I might instead choose to lift out portions to get these light areas, but as it is, I've kind of brought it to this point where these are my options, opaque. So I'm using a little bit of white watercolor ground. To get the tip of that tail in. And another one for the tip of this tail. Blending out the edges. I don't want a hard-edged white. A little bit over here. And a little bit on the bib. Again, soft edges. And by which I mean I blend it out so that I don't have just this hard edge glop of white. To continue darkening the face, and I'm continuing with this mixture of ultramarine blue and yellow toned colors so that I have this muted green as a result, this kind of grayish green, which I'm liking as contrast to the purple and yellow that I have going on so far. And for some more intense dark tone, I'm actually just going to use neutral tint, which is a very neutral gray. I'm using these light feathery strokes of my brush. In the direction that the fur would be. Now, taking a slightly larger brush, this is a number 2, wetting down this backside area because I think I want some wet and wet darkness. Give myself a base tone there. then taking my little brush, while this wash is still wet, I'm going along the edge of it, the edge of his body, and pulling outwards from the wet paint, from the wet wash there, for this little edge of fur. So that the outside contour is not just this solid straight line, but it has this fur edge to it. And because I'm doing it while the paint is still wet, it blends out into the existing wash, and it doesn't look like it's just a border that I'm painting on. It actually integrates quite well with the wet paint. Still wet and wet over here. So it looks like this is turning out to be the main tail, and the other two are a little bit more subtle. Now again, I'm going to do that trick of doing a wash and then pulling out the edges so that I have this, so that I don't have this hard straight edge for the outer contour, but a softened fur ruff. You have to have pretty intense pigment on your brush for it to show. And you have to make sure that the area that you're painting out from is still wet. See, if it's not intense enough, then all you do is end up pulling out the wash. And since I did it pretty light, you won't see anything here against the colored background.